All right, hello everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Data Resilient SpectrumCast. You might wonder why this is a special edition. We want to bring live to you, making sure you're doing a good health check of your data protection environment. So we wanted to give you a few takeaways and things to think about when it comes to that. I am joined here by two of our fabulous development crew. We've got Jason Basler and we've got Jim Smith. Hey guys, how you doing today?
Hey, Steve.
Great.
Thanks for being here. And we've got Todd Owczarzak from our support team. And I think it's great that we're all together. I really like when we present things as a team, as a unified front from all the different functional areas, because it gives folks ideas of it's not just one entity, a seller or a support person or a development person coming to you. It's kind of a unified front. So one of the things we started to think about, we've been having a lot of conversations around, is folks tend to buy a data protection product maybe 3, 5, 10 years ago, and it works fine. It's been working fine for a long time, and it's solving all of their problems. But maybe they turn around and this particular week, it started to not work so well, and they don't really know why. So the first inclination is to call support. Todd, you guys find that you get a lot of those types of phone calls every once in a while?
Yeah, it's unfortunately probably a little bit more than every once in a while. It's just all too frequent that things come back to help.
Yeah. So what we wanted to be able to do is talk to Jason and Jim and Todd. And Jason and Jim specialize in helping architect data protection solutions, especially around Spectrum Protect and Spectrum Protect Plus. And so what we thought we would do is just talk a little bit about what are some of the things you can do before you make that illustrious phone call into support to look at your environment to see maybe some of the things that might be happening within my implementation. And, you know, Jason, as you think about it, what are some of the things that folks can think about?
Well, a lot of times it's good to go back to the design that you had in mind when you implemented the solution in the first place. And so, you know, one tool we provide as a development team to assist customers for success is our blueprints, which provide very detailed guidance on how you can size and deploy a solution that meets our best practices. But what can happen over time is things grow, things happen that you didn't account for. You know, you may have taken on more data than you could ever possibly have imagined at the time you designed the system, and things can get out of whack. So it's always good to go back and, in a sense, redo your sizing and see how the reality of today matches what you actually sized against when you put it together in the first place. And you may be surprised to find out that, you know, all your best plans only took you so far, and it's time to right-size things.
Yeah, and I think you said it right? Maybe when you bought the solution and you sized it properly, things definitely change over time. And probably one of those bigger things is just the sheer growth of data. And then as technology evolves, my network evolves, servers evolve, storage evolves, maybe things just aren't keeping up as properly. So, Jim, you know, when is it really imperative to think about utilizing the Spectrum Protect Plus or Spectrum Protect blueprints?
Well, the old cliche goes, Steve, early and often, kind of repeating what Jason said. So you want to think of this as planning and verification. And Jason kind of touched on that, but we can briefly talk about it again. So for planning, you're thinking about, you know, what you need to do and how you need to design the system. And it's probably one of the first things you want to do. You're probably with any software, you download it, look at the manual, whatever, play with it. But at some point you start getting serious about, I need to plan out my ecosystem, my infrastructure, and then I need to test it. And then I'm going to take it in production. And usually you're planning, as you said, for periods of long, extended periods, 3 to 5 years in the future. So at some point before that initial test phase, that proof of concept phase, you're going to want to use the blueprint and kind of map out where you think you're going. The thing that Jason was touching on is you're making a lot of assumptions going into that. You have assumptions, you're making assumptions about 3 to 5 years of data growth, of change. Things are going to grow, things are going to get added. You're also going to see that your data is responding to various components, whether it's the storage and your data reduction, or to the compute to the CPU, or just the time. And you have several podcasts set up to talk about kind of the cycle of life and other things you should be doing to health check your system. So I would suggest maybe on a quarterly basis, you just go back and look back at, as Jason said, the initial blueprint, the initial sizing that you put together, the assumptions you made, and then kind of course correct, make adjustments and see if that changes the outcome. And as you're kind of pointing to, try to get ahead of having to call Todd and support.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, I think all too often we think about data protection, and I think history has said or dictated, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and you kind of forget about it. And I think that's what kind of sneaks up on customers. It's working, and then all of a sudden it falls down, and troubleshooting that why becomes difficult. But I like the fact that you're mentioning maybe on a quarterly basis. This is a job. This is someone's full-time job, right? As a data protection engineer within an organization, you should be thinking about these things, and it shouldn't be just break fix, right? There's some proactive things you can do that specifically align to these blueprints. Todd, I wanted to ask you, when you find clients that actually don't follow the blueprints or participate, and I would probably guess that's a majority of the clients that call into support, what do you typically find are challenges or are issues or things that they should be thinking about, or how should they go back to the drawing board? How do you look at that?
Well, for us, it usually starts with one of two situations. Either the customer or the admins have noticed that there's some sort of deterioration in the performance of their environment. Things aren't going quite as planned. Different things are failing. Sometimes hard failures. Sometimes they just see backups that are starting to fail. And fortunately, with the resiliency of our product and the transaction nature of both DB2 under the covers and Spectrum Protect, a lot of things that happen from what we consider a under-resourced situation actually doesn't necessarily lead to failures, but it does start to lead to just a series of problems that people identify and obviously when they're paying attention need to rectify. So as we dig through those and we really start again with high-level symptoms of things, it's not blatant errors or failures in a lot of cases. And we get underneath the performance aspects. We get underneath, again, the transaction failures are really big when it comes to the use of our logs or the DB2 logs, and the fact that that's probably one of the most common places we see the blueprints not being followed to the degree where a variety of problems start to manifest themselves. So as we start to peel away the details, the symptoms that are being reported to us, it becomes evident eventually that wrong sizes have been used as far as the size of the logs go from a blueprint perspective, or possibly the storage beneath the database and the logs. They're not on SSD. They're on a slower disk, a slower storage system, and that leads to performance issues, all of which, when it comes together and through the growth and the changes that both Jason and Jim talked about, eventually you have a server that's been operationally performing great for years. It starts to deteriorate or even completely fail. And it comes down to the fact that you've now either weren't originally designed to handle the capacity that you've now grown to, or you have clearly moved past, in some cases, that capacity and need to readjust your blueprints, and really the resources or the blueprints you're following with the resources underneath it, so that you can continue to have a stable system, have a system that is continuing to grow with you and understand, where you need to go next.
Great, thanks. So if we think about this and we just lay it out very simply for clients, first thing is don't immediately call support, right? Think about your environment and things that might have changed that are outside of the fact that it might be just the product or the technology, but the other factors that affect your environment. Second, look at the blueprint, right? Take a look at the blueprint, see how it compares to your existing environment and what you might need to change. And three, and Jim's advice, do this on a regular basis, right? Be proactive about it and think about it. And if you'd like to find more information about these blueprints, you'll see a link posted here. And on our YouTube channel for our TSM evangelist, Trisha Jang, Jim and Jason have recently gone through and updated the blueprints for not only the blueprint itself, but how to utilize it as well as the sizing guides. Gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much for your time. We're going to make this a regular segment on a SpectrumCast for data resilience called Health Checks. I think the number one thing that we learned here the first time is take a look at the blueprints and make sure that, know that they're your friend and utilize them. Any parting words, guys?
No, look forward to the new discussion thread that we have, Steve.
Thanks, Jason. Well, thank you all, guys. I appreciate your time today.